In my way number 2 condensed child violence. You are going to die here. Oh no. Sasuke darted forwards again, going for the head, but Kimimaro put his hand up and let the blade bury into his palm. His skin turned a dark purple, and his body began to grow and change, and was that a fucking tail? Horns? What the oh, and now he was growing bone over the injury. Great. Sasuke tried to make a jutsu, but Kimimaro leapt up with a literal roar and slammed a fist into the ground, hurling him backwards. Clematis dance, whip? Growled Kimimaro, now resembling nothing more than a velociraptor, as he reached behind himself to oh, what the hell. Sasuke jumped out of the way of the bone whip. Did you just tear out your spinal column? That is metal as fuck. Then he was ducking another sweep, and jumping away as it speared the ground next to him. You know, if it keeps switching between rigid and flaccid like that, you should probably shut up. I'm making a penis joke. Stop talking. Kimimaro roared, sprinting towards him. Sasuke did the sensible thing, and booked it towards the forest. He was completely and utterly out of his depth. He knew this. Kimimaro was stronger than him, faster than him, judging from the rapidly closing sounds of his monstrous footsteps, more durable than him, and probably still smarter, despite the curse mark. The genjutsu trick probably wouldn't work again either, which left Sasuke with a mind completely empty of plans. His only thought was to get into the trees, where Kimimaro's larger size would make him, hopefully, less maneuverable. Of course, the moment he actually got under the tree cover, he realized the problem with that plan. Kimimaro began swinging his whip wildly, and completely tearing the trees apart beneath Sasuke's feet. Shit. What can I do? What can I do? What can I do? There was only one piece of advice Sasuke had left rattling around in his brain. Another gem from Itachi. Remember, Sasuke, a lot of people are gonna complain about your Sharingan. Laugh good-naturedly, and promise to turn it off in sparring. But in a real fight, when your life is on the line, you abuse whatever the hell you have to survive. What was the only thing Sasuke had over Kimimaro? Visual prowess and a kick-ass lightning punch. So how did he leverage that to win? Hinata blitzed forwards and punched. Naruto caught it on his shoulder, not moving, shifting back into stance. Then he punched back. She slid backwards. Then the black markings from her curse mark spread across her body and she punched again. That got a reaction. The stone beneath them cracked and Naruto was thrown off, and this time Hinata jumped straight after him. Mid-air, they put their hands together at the same time. Shadow Clone Jutsu. 3 Naruto and 3 Hinata landed on the water surface and broke into taijutsu. Hinata was better than Naruto at fist fighting. He knew this. Her gentle fist was frankly completely busted OP. But she wasn't more experienced at shadow clone combat. Being able to ruin someone with one attack means nothing special if they already break in one attack. While Naruto Prem was backing up away from the waterfall and blocking desperately, his 2 clones were soundly beating Hinata's, mostly through self-sacrificial tactics and repeated cloning. They ran up behind her as she pressed down on Naruto, but, seeing everything, she jumped upwards, catching both attacks and kicking both in the head midair. She landed, and kept walking forwards. Alright, fine, if you're gonna be a badass, Naruto grouched. Multi-shadow clone jutsu. It was time to take off the "this is just a spar" gloves. 100, give or take. He's outdoing himself. Hinata noticed. She shifted her feet. 8 trigrams. 64 palms. The clones rushed her and she countered, each strike deadly, moving like a reaper through their ranks and popping them one after the other. The Hyuuga multi-palm strikes were almost perfectly designed to take down the multi-shadow clone technique, allowing the user to put 30, 60, even 120 clones into the ground in the course of a few seconds, even breaking through to the jutsu's caster and partially damaging them. This was, of course, against all shadow clone users that weren't Uzumaki spammed to death Naruto. The clones, getting the memories and chakra of their deceased comrades, made more clones. As her technique came to a close, she had made no recognizable dent in the clones' forces, so she prepared a slightly more direct solution. First gate. Open. She felt her adrenaline pump faster as her body moved into overdrive. She blitzed forwards and punched, and her momentum took her straight through 3 of the clones. She didn't bother targeting them, simply elbowing and kneeing her way through any Naruto in between her and her target. The Naruto standing separately from everyone else. His eyes widened and he fell into a defensive stance as she approached, and she got within a few meters of him before her momentum was suddenly halted. "Heave!" shouted one of the Naruto clones. 2 of them had launched the adamantine chakra chains from their hands and caught her about the arms. They may not have been real, but they certainly had Naruto's mass and his strength. Not strength enough, though, and chakra suppression did nothing against the gates. She yanked one arm and took one of the clones off his feet entirely, slamming him into one of the statues, then punched off the chain on her other arm, before lunging back at Naruto. The half-second it took her was too long. By the time she got to him, Naruto had substituted with a clone, who had the audacity to grin at her as she punched it in the face. She turned around towards the Naruto crowd, sprinting towards the one she'd seen doing the hand seals for the substitution, but by that point the rest of the Naruto had caught onto the plan and were randomly substituting the real Naruto amongst them and with each other, making him nearly impossible to keep track of. Those that weren't were just gang-piling Hinata. They came at her from every angle, deliberately choosing the path of most resistance, planning only to impart as much momentum as they could before they died. She could destroy them no problem, but it left her slow, struggling, more at risk from the chains that snaked in occasionally to try and grapple her. "Oh. He's using his anti-Lee plan against me," she realized with a start. And it was actually working. Bastard. Deciding she needed some breathing room, Hinata resealed the first gate and smoothly shifted into a more defensive posture as they continued to lunge at her. 8 trigrams. Heavenly spin. She twisted, and the blue dome of chakra came to life around her. A few more shadow clones dispelled themselves running into it before they got the gist and hung back. "I thought it was called rotation," the real Naruto said, from some distance away. "So did I," Hinata replied, still spinning. "It depends on the translation." Sounds like a plot hole. It's really not. The only info I had on it before was from some less advanced scrolls and Windblade Jutsu. She glared at him, annoyed, as he interrupted her with a large scythe of chakra that shattered on her shield. This only compelled the other clones to try. After a few unsuccessful seconds of kunai, explosive tags and other wind jutsu, one of the clones had the brains to use the adamantine chakra chains, and that had an effect, especially when over a dozen of the others tried it. The golden chains wrapped around her dome and the chakra that made it up began to fizzle out. In fact, it created a sort of chakra suppression zone within the dome that began to stop her emitting energy. Her usually perfect vision flickered. She wondered if he even knew he was doing it. Grimacing, she cut the technique and fell into a sprinter's position, and the moment the technique finished she blasted off the ground, jumping through a gap in the chains back towards the army. But this time, she had a plan, and started making hand seals. Time to break out the new techniques. Assuming I can pull it off, as horrible as her introduction to it had been, her family's vaults were a figurative goldmine of techniques. How to do the heavenly spin properly, how to focus her Byakugan's vision like a telescope, how to extrapolate the 8 trigrams technique to a theoretically infinite number of strikes, none of which had immediately piqued her interest as much as one technique, which she had promptly spent the next day trying to learn. Its effectiveness against Naruto specifically was a fortunate side effect. "Gentle step," she cried. "Twin lion fists." Blue chakra blazed to life about her hand, and she struck. She destroyed well over 5 shadow clones before the remainder realized what was happening, and another 5 before they all had the thought to dispel themselves. Left alone was the real Naruto, gaping at her. "That is awesome. What the hell is it doing?" Hinata stood to her full height, which was still embarrassingly below 5 feet, and held her arms out to either side. The 2 lion heads around her hands did look pretty cool. The twin lion fists is one of the greatest techniques of the Hyuuga clan. She orated. They drain the chakra of whatever they touch. Am I correct that you didn't get the memories or power back when the clones dispelled? Naruto's eyes narrowed in focus, and she could feel him reevaluating his options. Hinata herself made sure to keep her expression calm and not show the fear she was experiencing. Due to him summoning so many clones at once, each one had only a minuscule fraction of his chakra, yet she was feeling swamped by the quantity currently running through her system from draining 10 of the 100 and change. Some quick mental maths left her in awe of his chakra reserves. She'd seen them before, sure, but feeling was a lot different, and she was almost certain if he split himself only in two, draining the clone would probably knock her unconscious. But for now, all he knew was that his zero-cost bullshit technique was no longer zero-cost. Perfect. Kill him, kill him, kill him was the mantra Kimimaro used to maintain his focus. A bit unorthodox, but it worked. Above him, in the trees, Sasuke had begun throwing shuriken. Lots of them. Most bounced off Kimimaro's hardened skin, and plenty just missed entirely. The Uchiha was throwing them with reckless abandon, seemingly at random, often not even close to their target. A distraction tactic, then. Kimimaro ignored them and focused on using his whip to try and snatch Sasuke's leg and pull him down, chasing deeper into the forest. His target began to swerve, double back on himself, trying to punish Kimimaro for his smaller turning circle. It was a decent plan. So Kimimaro began smashing completely through the trees in his way. That certainly helped. Eventually Sasuke was left standing on the only remaining tree in a brand new clearing. Grimacing, he began making hand seals as Kimimaro charged towards him. Clematis dance, flower. Kimimaro grinned as he called checkmate and prepared the final part of his fourth dance. His free hand morphed and twisted, growing into a long, wickedly sharp bone lance, capable of punching through just about anything. Chidori. Sasuke countered with an unfamiliar technique, blue lightning coalescing around his fist, as he propelled himself off the tree down towards his opponent. In the back of his mind, Kimimaro recognized that as an incredibly silly move, and that suspicion was what allowed him to spot the faint glint of reflecting sunlight in front of him. Razor wire. Sasuke began to grin. Kimimaro quickly understood the gambit, seeing in his peripheral vision the kunai and shuriken embedded in the trunks of trees, not random, but carefully thrown, with strands of wire wrapped around their hilts. A net stood in front of Kimimaro, and if Sasuke had his way, it would wrap him up and slow him down, trapping him for long enough for that lightning blade to stab into his chest. And it almost worked. Kimimaro made his whip rigid, and swept it in front of him, slicing the razor wire apart. Sasuke's face fell. Now, he was falling, with no surfaces to bounce off, and on a trajectory that was painfully easy to calculate. Kimimaro quickened his pace. With the path he was on, he would skewer Sasuke before he even hit the ground, and proceed to smash him against the tree he had jumped from in a guaranteed killing blow. Which was why it was such a surprise when Sasuke suddenly jerked in midair. Time slowed down. Kimimaro's eyes widened and he saw it, wrapped around Sasuke's right leg, more of the wire. But that was impossible. Kimimaro had just cleared out the whole web, there couldn't be any left. Not unless he had prepared it in a way so that when certain wires were snapped, others were tightened, so that the overall web would change entirely but that was impossible. In order to have everything interconnect like that, thrown with perfect precision, the visual acuity required it was impossible. Without something like the Sharingan. Kimimaro closed his eyes. Sasuke's downwards acceleration was halted, converted into a swing, as Kimimaro's momentum carried him inevitably forwards, not into but underneath his opponent. Uchiha Sasuke winked at him. And then the Chidori tore down into his back. Naruto bit his finger and palmed the surface of the water. Summoning Jutsu. Doing this with any degree of precision rather than just throwing the net out for the strongest summon it required a lot of chakra control, especially for Naruto, but he was able to grab and pull the toad he was looking for. This one was a dark purple with orange splotches, lean-bodied, standing just over 2 meters tall on its hind legs. Toxicroak. Close combat. Yeah, okay, can you stop with the naming us after Pokemon? Toxicroak winced. We have names. Blastoise is a turtle, not a toad, and I've never even heard of Toxicroak. Really? Gen 4, dude. The best generation. It is not. Yes, you know what, whatever. Hit the lady with the blue hair. Toxicroak jumped forwards, and Naruto followed him. Hinata glared, and Naruto grinned at her. Sage creatures used sage chakra, which Jiraiya had vaguely explained to him at one point. Most importantly, Hinata's Byakugan couldn't see them, so she'd have to keep Toxicroak in normal sight range. And it didn't have Tenketsu, so she couldn't use the gentle fist on it. And unless he was mistaken, she couldn't drain sage chakra either. Toxicroak, meanwhile, was Naruto's best taijutsu summon. How do you like them apples, huh? Hinata of course had her solution. She slit her thumb open with a nail and palmed the water beneath her, copying him. Summoning Jutsu. Beside her, Forsooth appeared, taking one look at the situation and sighing. My lady, tell me you've changed your mind about the plan, and we'll call it off. She told him, not looking away from Naruto. Forsooth tapped his beak, but said nothing, before rising to the air with a few mighty flaps of his wings. Naruto wasn't having any of that altitude nonsense. Boost me! He shouted to Toxicroak, jumping up onto his back, and the toad pushed him upwards. He reached and blasted out a chakra chain, managing to wrap it around Forsooth's legs just before the owl could cast a jutsu. He didn't think the chains could stop sage techniques, but they could certainly wrap its claws up. Ha ha! He shouted, victoriously. Forsooth glared at him. Then dived. Ha! Ha ugh! The chain went taut. With an incredibly unmasculine scream, Naruto was sent hurtling off the edge of the waterfall. Left alone, Hinata moved to block the punches of the worryingly muscular toad. The lion fists didn't seem to do much draining, but they did increase her attack potency, and her other strength multipliers were still up. They went back and forth, her a concentrated bullet of power at a larger, more evasive opponent. It was a hell of a fight, pushing her taijutsu to the limits, and she idly wondered if Naruto was having a similar fight with the ever-calculating Forsooth. Let go! No! Let go! No! Let go! No! The trees beneath Naruto were going past way too fast. He tried not to look down, and focused on climbing his way up the golden chain linking him to the big blue bird. I will drop you. Forsooth threatened. You can't. He shot back, moving further up. I will desummon myself, and you'll fall. You can't do that either. He pointed out. As long as he had Forsooth, literally, by the claws, he had him, figuratively, by the throat, no jutsu, no auto-dispelling, no attacking. They all evidently decided on the next best thing, which was to drop until he was just above tree level and let Naruto fall towards the leaves. Oh, for he grabbed the chain harder and braced as his body smashed through the branches of the trees Senju Hashirama had so thoughtlessly grown there, not to mention at least 3 squirrels and 1 enraged crow. Eventually, Forsooth's own momentum was bled dry as Naruto attempted to deliberately grab the larger trunks, forcing the summon to climb higher into the air and drag Naruto back out of the danger zone. Okay, if you threw. Naruto spat out a twig. Do that again, we're going to have problems. Take me back to Hinata. I will not. Snapped the bird. My lady specifically desires you removed from her presence. Yeah, but she summoned you because she didn't think she could fight that frog. And now she has to, alone, without you. Naruto pointed out. Lady Hinata will be fine. Forsooth replied, with a little less certainty. Are you really helping her betray everyone she cares about? Naruto tried. What happened to owls being wise? I disagree with her decision. Forsooth grumbled. But the higher-ups, as it were, have decided to support her. And you're just going with that? Naruto exclaimed. Look, bring me to her, and I'll talk to her, convince her she was being stupid, bring her back, everyone's happy. That would be against screw the rules. Naruto interrupted. Screw the elders. Do what you think is right. Forsooth looked down at him. Huffed. I am going to regret this water bullet. Croaked Toxicroak, blasting the projectile towards Hinata, who put one lion fist out and caught it with little difficulty. She lunged through the ensuing explosion and was able to get a kick into the toad's ribs. It flew backwards, but instead of landing on the surface of the water it vanished into the currents with a loud splash. Of course, amphibious. And now it can attack me from below without my Byakugan being able to track it. But stupid. She made a few hand seals and poured some lightning-release chakra into the water. There was a smell of ozone, a few fish flopped up to the surface, and there was the sound of desummoning. Hinata sighed and stood up, stretching, and remembered to pay attention to her previously useless Byakugan. Which was when she spotted Forsooth flying towards her from upstream. Naruto, dangling from the owl's tied-up feet, released his grip. The chains dissipated, allowing Forsooth to make the hand signs to dispel himself just before there was a bang from, presumably, an explosive tag. Naruto inherited all the momentum, flying forwards with a double kick Hinata barely had time to get her hands up to block. Naruto slammed into her arms, and not wanting to break both her own legs, she released the water-walking attraction and let herself be thrown backwards. She hadn't anticipated to fly quite as far, however. Her eyes widened as she was flung meters away, legs kicking down to catch the ground and missing, as with a small leap. She fell over the edge of the waterfall and began plummeting down to the lake below. Kimimaro slid to a stop after a few meters. The pain was so intense he could hardly even move, as behind him Sasuke disentangled himself from the wiring and dropped to the floor. I really need to stop fucking with my leg. He heard the Uchiha growl. And that's what you get for falling for the same trick twice, bitch. Woo! He was right. A second trick hidden beneath the first, not even that complex of a plan by ninja standards, but Sasuke had pulled it off with the Genjutsu, and again with the wire. It was the price Kimimaro had paid for the power of the curse mark, detriments to his higher brain functions. And now he was dying. He could feel it, even as his body desperately tried to regrow bone over the damage to his heart and central nervous system. There would be no excuses this time, either. It was just as his master had promised. Here his mission had bid him succeed at all costs, and he had failed. No. Not yet. Death was not failure. His master would have his new body if Hinata made it. He could still succeed if he was able to kill Sasuke now. He inhaled, marshalling his chakra, and preparing his broken body for a last few minutes of action. Then he put his palms to the floor and uttered the words. Bracken dance. In my way number 3. Naruto landed perfectly on the water, striking a dramatic pose as Hinata fell over the edge. Then he blinked. Oh, wait, shit. His eyes widened, and he ran as fast as he could to the edge of the waterfall. There the water was running fast and breaking into froth, and it was hard for him to keep his footing as he looked over the edge, trying to spot his friend. Hinata! He shouted. I'm really sorry. There was no response for a few seconds. And then a shape rocketed up in front of him. He fell back onto his ass, winced at how cold the water was, and scrambled away from the waterfall's edge, eyes tracking through the sky trying to spot the UFO that had just flown up past, which was when something fell over his eyes. Annoyed, he pulled whatever it was off himself, and recoiled in surprise when he saw it was Hinata's fur-lined jacket. He turned to see where it had come from and came face to face with one of the most beautiful things he'd ever seen. It was Hinata, but not, stood atop the stone dude's head. Most importantly, feathered wings emerged down and out from her arms, the fingers on which had extended somewhat into claws which she was flexing in front of herself in fascination. They were navy blue, of course, and the feathers seemed to form a spine going down her back, with a feathered tail reaching to the backs of her knees. More strangely, her normal hair was gone, the feathers forming a hood that came up over the crown of her head and had a small peak going down to between her eyebrows. Naruto couldn't help but compare it to the hoods from Shinobi's Creed. He carefully bundled up her coat and tied it about his waist, understanding why she'd relinquished it. There was no way she would have been able to fit those things under her sleeves. All she currently wore was the sleeveless vest she sometimes trained taijutsu in. An owl. Naruto deadpanned. Of course. This is the curse mark thing, right? Looks like it. Hinata remarked. She moved her wings out to either side, giving them a test beat which sent pebbles skittering away from beneath her. Then she lunged. Naruto didn't have time to move out of the way as she blasted towards him, crashing into him in almost the same move as he had just pulled on her. Only this time, she went with him. Naruto locked his arms around her legs as they both went plummeting over the waterfall, wind whipping around both forms as they got faster and faster. Hinata angled her wings and they took on a diagonal route, hurtling over the lake at the bottom. "Let go." Hinata snarled. "Not a chance." Naruto bit back. "Then I'll make you." She decided. She expelled chakra from her legs, weakening his grip, then twisted them and kicked him again, sending him hurtling away even as she flattened her wings to slow herself down. Naruto slammed full force into one of the stone cliffs, coughing up blood, before falling over 10 meters to the ground below. Somehow he didn't stop at that, rolling on the rocks at the lake's edge and stumbling back up to his feet. Hinata glided to a stop right in front of him and put her hand on his shoulder to steady him. 8 trigrams. She said, sadly. 64 palms. Naruto tried, but he wasn't able to provide much resistance. Hinata's used the multi-palms on him before, during sparring, so he knew what to expect. The sharp pain from the first 10 or so hits, followed by a complete numbness that spread throughout his entire body. Hinata finished and released him, and he fell to his knees in front of her. He couldn't feel anything below his face, and she'd probably only spared that as a courtesy. "I'm sorry," she said, quietly. "Please. Just wait here until the others arrive." In answer, his body flopped completely onto its side. Hinata took one last look at him and began to walk away. 0. She stopped and tilted her head, not looking back. Naruto worked his jaw and continued. "That's how many friends I used to have. Not, nada, zilch. Sasuke came along and I had one. Then you came and I had 2. But suddenly, after you showed, I had more. Haku, Kakashi, Gaara, Jiraiya, the kids from our class started being more friendly." The first thing he felt was a brief flash of nostalgia, which he relished. But then the rage started to build, and he didn't even try to control it. "These last few months have been the best time of my life," he continued. "And you're here trying to tell me to give it up? Not happy." He grit his teeth. "But I'd do it. For you. I'd give my happiness up in a heartbeat for yours. But that's not what you're asking me to do, is it?" His vision went red, and he wasn't sure if it was the anger or there was actually blood-colored chakra bubbling off his body. "Because you are just like me." That got a reaction. She turned around to look at him. "You know damn well what it's like to be lonely." He growled, and oh good, he had fangs now. "To have nobody. But you want me to sit back and let you throw yourself right back into that place. And that's something I'm never going to let you do." He looked up and grinned ferally. "Call it my ninja way." "Are you finally going to let me loose on something?" asked the voice hovering in the back of his head. "We're not killing her. But she's not leaving. I'll take it." Sasuke summoned a shadow clone and handed it the real Rado. "Finish it." The clone nodded and walked forwards. "Sorry, asshole," Sasuke called over its shoulder. "Hinata may be fine right now, but nobody kills my friend and gets away with it." That was when the ground began to rumble. Sasuke looked with his Sharingan and gaped as Kimimura's chakra spread out from him, down into the earth beneath, as his entire body became covered in bone and what the hell shit. 3-stage boss fight. Sasuke and his clone jumped. Just in time for the earth beneath them to erupt up into a landscape of bone spikes. Sasuke was forced to jump from pillar to pillar as the bones just kept growing, blanking out the surroundings, uprooting trees, and causing avalanches of dirt to fall into and fill the abyss below. What in the name of he stuck himself to one of the bones and gaped out at the Kage plus level feat that he'd just been caught up in. Pebbles skittered down, echoing as they went, but the bones had stopped. Was that it? He dared to ask. That was a mistake. Look out! shouted his shadow clone, and Sasuke jumped off his pillar just before his location was stabbed. Looking back midair, he saw Kimimura's upper body emerging from the bone, glaring at him. Die, it said, before vanishing back into the bone. Sasuke, quite reasonably terrified, landed on another spine, only to be forced to jump away again as Kimimura emerged from beneath his feet, swiping at him with the massive death stick. "Oh, come on!" Sasuke yelled, moving to rejoin his shadow clone only to find said clone impaled from behind. "This is bullshit." He snatched up Rado as it fell, then used said blade to block as Kimimura struck at him too, sending him flying backwards towards another bone. "I can't keep going like this. After all that, he's going to kill me." His eye started bleeding again. No. Fuck this. Plans. He's as fast as he wants when he's in the bones, but he seems to slow down to normal when he pops out. So this time Kimimura didn't wait for Sasuke to land before appearing, coming out to stab at him while he was still falling towards the pillar. Sasuke hurled a kunai wrapped in razor wire lower down and yanked on his end, effectively tagging himself onto another trajectory, then kicking back off. So whatever I do, it has to be after I've baited him out. Ideally, I need to separate him from the bones. The next bone was coming up, and Sasuke started making hand seals as fast as he could. When Kimimura appeared, it was to see Sasuke held tight in the grip of a shadow clone of himself. The moment he saw Kimimura appear, they both kicked hard off each other, sending the clone upwards and the real boy on a steeper downwards arc. That was when the real Sasuke finished his hand seals. "Chidori!" he shouted, gritting his teeth at the pain of feeling his chakra reserves almost completely run dry. He wasn't on a course to hit Kimimura anymore, but that wasn't where he was aiming. With a yell of rage, he swept round his arm and sliced straight through the bone. The following events would all occur within the next 7 seconds. Kimimura's eyes widened as he realized what was going on. With a loud rumble, the pillar disconnected from the rest of the boneyard and began to fall. Kimimura immediately pulled his full body out of the bone, sprinting along it towards the clone, who had landed on the tip and now yanked his hands in midair. The razor wire linking the copy to the original went taut, and Sasuke was pulled up to land on the underside of the bone. That was when Kimimura impaled the clone. Flinching at the memory that hit him a moment later, Sasuke moved to sprint around the circumference to try and get a good look, only to hear a roar and for the pillar to split in two. He tried to maintain his footing, but his now exhausted chakra reserves couldn't keep hold of the shifting ivory and he spiraled out of control through the air, and Kimimura finished the swing that had cut through the bone and jumped up towards him, and Sasuke was completely out of movement, out of ideas. And this bastard who had just killed his friend was about to kill him too, and he wasn't about to fucking stand for it. The pain that had been building up in his eyes all day spiked. There was a flash. And then Kimimura's body was wreathed in black flames. There was screaming. Sasuke didn't know if it was him or Kimimura. His eyes felt like they were on fire, and it was only his years of training that let him automatically turn and stab Rado into one of the intact bones, slowing his descent to a manageable 30 miles per hour crash. It wasn't the first time Hinata had seen the Kyuubi chakra. That had been when Naruto had let it loose on the bridge of the water dragon, and she'd had a few horrified seconds to observe it then. Red. Powerful. Angry. And if anything, it seemed bigger now. It emerged from the seal around his belly button that she'd been wondering about ever since she'd first seen it, years ago, and flowed around his body like a cloud. And Naruto got to his feet. He probably thought he'd just found some new strength to overcome his blocked Tenketsu, but her Byakugan could spot the chakra itself animating his body like a puppet, allowing him to move when he should be completely out of action. So, fighting the Nine Tails Jinchuriki. Was it possible? First gate, open. She declared, showing no other reaction to his words, nor to the pain of reopening the gate so soon after closing it. Naruto roared and charged. The following battle could be accurately described as two kids with superhuman strength beating the shit out of each other. Naruto punched and Hinata went flying back, skidding along the surface of the lake, then she turned away his next two hits and countered with a palm strike to his back that sent him sprawling across the water's surface. The two had reached the point where their speed, strength and durability outstripped their mass by a considerable margin, and conservation of momentum dictated that they were going to be knocked around a lot. Naruto thrust his hand under the water's surface and then yanked it out, creating a massive wave that swamped Hinata's location. She jumped and used the heavenly spin midair to send the attack swirling around her like a waterspout. Feeling the air pressures, she beat her wings and flew up the center of the spout, then began to glide in an arc around him. He spotted her immediately and used the buffeting wind, which was supercharged into a hurricane by the 9 tails, whipping the surface of the lake into a frenzy. She was unable to fly with any control in the gale and was slammed back into the cliffside, so she pulled her wings in and dived, hitting the lake's surface and sprinting straight towards him. Her first fist rocked his chin upwards, her second was caught as he attempted to spin her around and throw her, but she got her back to him and flared her wings, breaking his grip, before turning around and hitting downwards, sending him plummeting below the water's surface. It was silent for a solid 2 seconds before the lake began to bubble and glow. She jumped up just as Naruto exploded up out of the water in a massive geyser, turning and striking her right in the chest, launching her back towards the waterfall. Shadow Shuriken Jutsu! He shouted, blasting thousands of shrapnel knives at her, and heavenly spin. She built up the blue dome that caused the projectiles to bounce off harmlessly, then wind blade. She was forced to swerve to the side as a 10-meter-tall slash cut her defense neatly in two. Lion fists! She shouted, and caught the follow-up blade, skidding backwards on the water's surface as she absorbed it. And why does he have so much chakra? Then he was upon her again and kicking her, which she blocked, and she brought her other arm around and broke his leg at the knee, which only got him to roar angrily in response as he brought his other leg around to axe kick the lake at her feet, causing a second geyser, while she jumped back and rose up into the air, making the hand signs and powering up. The attack she'd last used against Sasuke in the Chunin exams, Thunder Shock Jutsu. A sphere of lightning chakra blasted from her hands towards Naruto. She watched as his damaged leg knit itself back together in a matter of seconds, and he used it to kick the ball of electricity. It was batted away, causing another predictably massive explosion when it slammed into the cliffside. She grimaced. This was going to take more destructive power. Maybe it was the curse mark acting up again, but she was pretty confident he'd at least survive this. Chidori! She shouted, as the lightning began to flicker around her right arm. It glinted with an unusual onyx light. Across the lake, Naruto copied her. Rasengan! He shouted, and the blue ball, now shrouded in red, formed in his hand. They charged. Hinata went for height, running up the waterfall to her left, while Naruto beelined straight for her across the lake's surface. At the center, she was directly above him and blasted straight downwards, as he propelled himself up to meet her. Their eyes met, for a brief moment. And she saw him holding back. Even now he was trying his hardest not to really hurt her. And here she was, betraying him in the worst way she could think of. Tears in her eyes, she brought her Chidori down. The two techniques clashed, a sphere of light manifesting around the explosion, which promptly fell in on itself, compressing into a tiny point. Then that exploded. Sasuke gasped, trying to force oxygen through his quite reasonably upset lungs, and clambered to his knees. He had landed on the trunk of some tree or another, almost 100 meters deep into the earth. The sky was bright and far off, while the bones extended downward still further. Grimacing, he stood, gathered himself, and moved to confirm what he had just seen. It didn't take him long, he only had to follow the sound of burning. Kimamaro's corpse was already mostly ash by the time he got there, but the black flames were still alight. How the hell did I even do that? I don't know any fire release techniques that can. He caught sight of himself in the reflective surface of a nearby bone. What he saw in his reflection was not what he was used to. Ha! He remarked. Looks like my bloodline limit is still more broken than yours. Gigi no Ri. Kimamaro predictably didn't respond. Sighing, Sasuke reached down and picked up Kimamaro's whip sword, untouched by the fire. Then he looked up and started plotting a path out. It was the height that did it. While Hinata was blown upwards towards the heavens, arm fractured into pieces, in incredible pain but ultimately intact, gravity slowed her down, and she was able to control herself until she hit a constant altitude. Naruto wasn't so lucky. He was propelled directly downwards, hitting the surface of the water with a crack and falling straight through. He wasn't moving. Hinata briefly considered leaving. There was no knowing how long it would take Naruto to heal, or for the others to catch up. But it wasn't even a real decision. She tucked her wings and dove. 20 minutes later, Sasuke clambered up the bust of Senju Hashirama and started looking around. He was a little too afraid to activate his Sharingan, but he could still spot signs of battle everywhere he looked. Not good. Hey, Sasuke. You all right? He turned to see Shikamaru land behind him. Alive. Sasuke shrugged. Boney's dead. We saw the boneyard. For once Shikamaru actually seemed shaken. And heard the explosion. We took out our two without much trouble. I left the rest of the team to take them back to Konoha for interrogation. Well, I think it's pretty obvious what happened here. Sasuke sniffed, taking in the familiar scent of chakra and ozone. Want to help me look? It took them 15 minutes to find Naruto. After slogging their way down the side of the waterfall, tracking the combat throughout the valley, they spotted him on one of the lake's beaches, and exchanged glances. He was propped up against a rock, with Hinata's coat draped over him. Aftermath 4 broken. Kakashi was hopeful when his Sharingan picked up the 7 chakra signatures moving through the trees, hopeful in spite of them all being obviously the wrong size and shape. But that hope was dashed when they exited the tree line, walking along the main road into Konoha. He was reminded of the first time Team 7 had left the village, 3 fucked up little kids and their fucked up sensei off on an adventure with this one drunk guy. Good times. Not anymore. He saw Sasuke and Naruto, arms around each other's shoulders, both battered, bruised and exhausted, but still walking with each other's help. Ino Shikacho all walked together, a little closer to each other than they'd previously felt the need to be. Lee, the best off of the group, walked upright but with his eyes downcast and usual fire not present. 2 strangers hogtied and held over his shoulders. Kakashi raised an eyebrow when they could easily see him. Naruto didn't meet his eyes. Sighing, Kakashi walked forwards to console the remnants of his team. 6 years before graduation, come on, Neji growled to himself, under his breath. Do something, girl. Now I know it's hella illegal. Itachi continued talking, across from him, but I do think that if we comb through some of Hidden Lightning's archives, we might find out what he blinked, and squinted at his friend. Konoha to Neji? You listening? HM? The Hyuga looked up. Oh, sorry. Hinata's in a mess halfway across the village. Nothing dangerous, just you want to take a break and go bail her? Itachi chuckled good-naturedly. Yeah. Sorry, Neji paused, tilting his head and focusing. Oh. Actually, we might be good. Why? What's happening? Elsewhere, what's wrong, weirdo? Nothing to say? Hinata winced and closed her eyes. That was what seemed to be the problem. Maybe if she kept them closed they would. Hey, you not gonna look at me while I'm talking? What, you blind as well as ugly? The older boy shoved her, and she stumbled backwards. The trio of others backing him up laughed along with him. Ha! Look at you! Total pussy! Dude, you can't say that. My parents aren't around, it's fine. Stop. Hinata whimpered. Huh? What was that, little bug eyes? Please stop. She forced her eyes shut tighter, taking a step backwards. Oh, you want me to stop? Why don't you stop me, huh? The boy spread his arms. Use your ninja powers to stop me. Go on, do it. Hinata just took another step backwards. Ha! Pathetic. You clans think you're so cool, but look at you. He shoved her again, and this time she fell flat on her backside in the snow. They found that hilarious. Stop it! She shouted, then, help. Someone, please. The lead bully drowned her out with laughter. Oh, come on. Who's gonna try and save you? I am. Hinata's eyes snapped open. Standing with his hands on his hips in a dramatic pose was a boy with blonde hair, orange clothes, bright blue eyes, and a million Rio grin on his face. Who the hell are you? One of the bullies asked, angrily. The newcomer, if possible, grinned harder. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. He shouted. I'm here because I heard there was someone in need, and I'm never going to turn my back on us. One of the bullies punched him in the face and he went spinning, landing on the floor. Someone in need. Oh. He mumbled, through the snow. Who the hell is this kid? One of the bullies asked. Yo! This is that Uzumaki kid. Another shouted. He's some kind of demon, all the parents hate him. We could do whatever and nobody'll shout at us. Dude, that's awesome. Naruto stood up again, and fell into what Hinata recognized was a terrible fighting stance. Ha! Bold of you to assume even all three of you could. One of them punched him again. He stumbled backwards, wiping some blood off his face. Okay. He declared. I wasn't ready that time. Now, if you try, and they tackled him to the floor. Hinata wisely scrambled back behind a tree. The beating only lasted a few minutes before the bullies got bored, and having completely forgot about Hinata, wandered off. She was almost certain Naruto had been killed, but he sat up with no complaints but a small groan, pawing at his face. Hey, strange girl? You still there? Hinata peeked out of hiding. When she saw the coast was clear, she ran out to kneel next to him. I'm here. Are you okay? Heh. It'll take more than that to bring me down. He grinned at her, flashing a thumbs up. Then he grimaced and spat out a tooth. Are you sure? She asked, skeptically. Yeah, I heal fast. He said, fingering around his mouth for the gap. I've lost that tooth like 5 times at this point. I'm fairly sure that's not normal. Then it's just a sign of me being awesome. He nodded, with an air of finality. Hey, what's your name? Hyuuga. She replied, watching how he reacted. No, like, your actual name. He prompted, acting like he'd never heard of her clan before. Oh, Hinata? Cool name. I'm Uzumaki Naruto. She replied, giggling. You said already. Right, yeah. He looked down, wiggling his toes. Hey, Hinata, you don't hate me. And no. Am I supposed to? Probably. Most people do. Oh. Well, that made her cross. They shouldn't. You're a good person. He looked at her with wide eyes. I am? She nodded, pouting. You're a hero. His jaw fell open, and he stared at her for a few minutes. Then he coughed. Right, well, of course. His voice went lower, and he stood up. It is of course a hero's duty to help those in need. And it is also, he coughed again. A hero's duty to be good friends with everyone who he saves. So, be mine? Please? You want to be my friend? She blinked up at him, before smiling. Yes. She stood, and grabbed his hands. Let's be friends. Yes. Woo! He spun around and jumped in the air, making fist-pumping motions, before freezing. This is great. Just as great as all the other friends I definitely have. Of course. She giggled again. Right. Well then, Hinata, I must go and do hero stuff with all my other friends as well. Later. He waved, and began running off. She watched him go with a smile. Present-day Sasuke walked into the living room of the Uchiha compound without even considering the fact that he might be unwelcome. He sat down at one of the sofas and waited. Sure enough, after a moment, Itachi came through one of the doors and sat down next to him. Glad to see you're up. Sasuke began, not sure what else to say. I'm not in fighting shape, but I'm walking. Itachi agreed. Tsunade's one hell of a medic. He eyed his younger brother. You should probably pay her a visit. I'm fine. You've been stabbed in multiple places and bruised all over. It's minor. Sasuke reiterated, before looking across and seeing the genuine concern in his brother's eyes. I'll check in tomorrow morning. He relented, with a sigh. There was a silence. Is Naruto okay? Itachi queried. He told me he wanted some time to think. I left him a few roads back. Sasuke explained. When he says that he either needs immediate intervention or needs to be left alone. In this case, I'm pretty sure it was the latter. Are you okay? Itachi asked. No. Sasuke replied, simply. Do you want a hug? I don't. Sasuke paused, then leaned in. Itachi wrapped his arms around his brother without another word. It's all fallen apart. Sasuke muttered, clinging tightly. This whole time I was trying to get stronger, but all I did was put myself in the way of more pain. We made Chunin, but now Hinata's gone, the team's disbanded. Naruto's still here. Itachi reminded him. I'm still here, so's Kakashi, Jiraiya, Haku. You're not alone, little brother. I know. Sasuke told him. And it was true. I just needed to get that out. He leaned back out of the hug and wiped his arm across his face, not that there was anything to wipe off, of course. You know the bone dude you fought, Kimimaro? Beat him. Nice. Well done. Killed him. I see. Itachi looked searchingly at him. How does that make you feel? Still processing it, actually. Sasuke admitted. Might throw up later. Hope I don't get nightmares, that would be plain irritating. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a scroll. That's his sword, or one of them. Tempted to engrave something on it, but frankly the boner jokes write themselves. I'll have it cleaned, sharpened, you can think of a name later. Itachi promised, taking the scroll from him. Sasuke shifted his feet, looking down at his hands. There was one more thing he had to say. Kimimaro was going to kill me. I'd used up all my chakra, the Chidori, nothing had put him down. He had me dead to rights. So what did you do? Itachi asked. Oh, nothing much. Sasuke shrugged, closing his eyes. I looked at him. He set on fire. Itachi went very still. Sasuke looked up and met his eyes. Itachi's Sharingan changed into the form Sasuke had only seen once, its strange triangular pattern. Sasuke's faced him. His usual 3 tomo were gone, replaced by a black-red flower petal design. Ah, said Uchiha Itachi. Yeah. I think, said the boy with the Mangekyo Sharingan, you have some explaining to do. Kakashi sat down at the bar, ordered a drink in silence. A few minutes later, Jiraiya sat down next to him and did the same. A few minutes after that, Tsunade sat down and did the same. They all looked at each other. It's happening again. They chorused. Naruto had no idea where he was. He'd started walking about an hour ago, and hadn't stopped since, wandering aimlessly past most of the village's major landmarks. He'd walked up the Hokage monument to watch the sunset, and then he'd walked back down it again. He'd passed the Uchiha compound over 3 times now, each time slowing down, looking at it for a long moment, then moving on. Now it was dark, and there was nobody else on the streets. He knew, vaguely, that he was on the opposite side of town to his flat, and was briefly considering sending off some shadow clones to scout, when he recognized he was on a familiar road. He looked up, and his face fell. It was the Hyuuga compound. Grimacing, he turned away and started walking. Hey Naruto. He froze. I guess that means I win the Chunin exams, huh? Yay, he span around, and she was right there, Hinata. She held up her hands placatingly as he darted towards her. Don't. I'm not really here. This is a shadow clone Hinata formed before leaving. Not Hinata explained. But I'm updated with memories as of 5 minutes ago. Yes, sorry. Your teammate is still running away to live with the Hickey Snake Man. Naruto stopped, looked at her. I don't exactly know how to say this, but that's not something somebody actually betraying us to a terrorist would say. You might have caught on sometime during the fight, so I wouldn't have had to try and defeat a Jinchuriki. Not Hinata chuckled. Yes, I'm not just betraying the village for my own ambitions. Then 10 different questions all tried to take precedence at once, but after a moment they all fell away. Naruto took a step back and shook his head. His legs ached, and he had to suppress the urge to yawn. Why are you even here? Hinata's face fell. You're upset. I'm just tired. I think I understand. She looked down and exhaled. Naruto, do you remember when we first met? Kinda? Naruto shrugged. We were like 5 or something. I was being attacked by some bullies. It was because of my eyes or something, and back then I was too pathetic to defend myself. Hinata explained. And you came in, made a brave pose, and started scrapping with them. They were bigger than you, so you got completely beaten up, but afterwards you got back up, brushed yourself off, and smiled like it was no big deal. It was one of the most amazing things I'd ever seen. She smiled at the memory. I started to follow you. Occasionally, only once or twice a week, I would go and follow you from a distance, just watch you. I was always far too scared to actually go and talk to you. We've already had this talk, haven't we? Naruto checked, remembering their conversation after the wave mission. We have. She agreed. But back then I made it out as so inspiring, so noble. In reality I was fucked up, Naruto. She closed her eyes. My family died. I had to walk through my compound and see their corpses. I still see them every time I'm there. Cammy, I don't know how to explain it, but the silence, the faces, it was so exhausting, just to be there, with their ghosts all pulling me down. I had absolutely nothing left except Neji, the man that killed them, and you. So I latched onto you. She looked back up to him. I started following you almost every day. I got up early, trained, then came over to your flat to watch you wake up. I knew your habits, where you ate, who you spoke to, every prank you ever pulled, I saw you pull it. I watched as Sasuke got closer to you and befriended you, and I started resenting him. I told myself it was because of some silly clan rivalry, when really I was just jealous he'd had the courage to come and talk to you. I watched you as people were picking on you for seemingly no reason, and even while I got stronger, I didn't come in to help you. Thing is, while you were hurting, I knew you were feeling the same as me, and in some twisted way it made me feel better. Even as I started to hate everyone that did it to you, which was everyone. Naruto just looked at her. For once in his life, he genuinely had no idea what to say. What to feel. And then they put me on your team. She continued, with a smile. So I had to interact with you. And it was everything I'd ever wanted. You were so nice, but you did so much, well, stupid stuff that I had to get rid of the idealized version of you I'd built up in my head. But I liked you anyway. I got over my hatred of Sasuke. I started actually being nice to people. These last few months have been the best time of my life. I could never betray that. Which is why I'm here. She reached around her neck and pulled her leaf forehead protector from around her neck. You didn't have that while we were fighting. Naruto noticed. She shook her head. I didn't. This here is the real one. I couldn't bring myself to cut it. You left a shadow clone behind to give me a present? Naruto looked at her, dubiously. I left a shadow clone behind to make a promise and ask a favor. Hinata countered. She held it out to him. Please, take this. Keep it for me. That's the favor. Because the promise is that after I'm done with Orochimaru, done with Neji, I'll come back. And I'll wear it again. You think Swanda'll let you back after this? Naruto snorted. With my eyes? There'll probably be a welcome party. Hinata chuckled. Naruto looked in her eyes. You're coming back? I am. You swear? On everything I've ever cared about. And what else was there? Naruto reached forwards and grasped the forehead protector. You know coming back means you have to survive, right? I'll do my best. Good. Can I crash in your compound? The key's under the potted plant. Got it. She tilted her head. You're actually okay with this? Not okay, but you're my teammate. Hinata's shoulders shook. I do not deserve you. Naruto scratched the back of his neck. Come on. Hinata, I think I will. Good luck. Thanks. You too. She released the headband. Then, before he could react, darted forwards and planted a kiss on his cheek. She swayed back with a grin. Hinata Prime is going to be so angry I stole that from her. Catch you later, future Hokage. She put her fingers together and vanished in a puff of smoke. And Naruto was alone in the street again. Off in the distance, he heard the hooting of owls. Left a shadow clone, huh? He felt a little like he should be crying, falling into the dark hole of despair he'd teetered on many times during his childhood. But as he looked down at Hinata's headband, strangely, all he could feel was a laugh bubbling up, and a few seconds later he was guffawing in the street without a care for who might be listening. You beat me, with half your chakra. Ah ha ha ha. He shook his head, grinning, and tied Hinata's headband around his arm. Then he summoned a few shadow clones. All right, maggots. Hinata's about to get a buttload more powerful, and I'm not about to get left behind. Are any of you pansies tired? No, sir. Then let's get training, people. We're burning moonlight. Orochimaru sat in his chair and waited. Absent-mindedly, he flexed his fingers, getting used to their size and weight. He hadn't had the time to restructure the new body to his liking. Not that it would ever really meet his expectations, the main object of his attention was the girl about to walk through the door. And due to her eyes, there wasn't much point in putting up a jinjutsu to disguise his new form. Grimacing a little, he prepared to receive her. Wondering what kind heartless girl would try to kill her own teammate in the Chunin exams, stalemate professionals with decades of experience in court, abandon her own village just for a chance to high. Hyuga Hinata skipped, into his room, with a flabbergasted Kabuto trailing after her. I found her, well, she found me some distance past the Valley of the End. The blue-haired teen explained. Hinata looked at Orochimaru and frowned. You look different to how I remember. I was having some trouble in the arm department, so I got new ones. He explained. You, however, look much the same. Why, thank you. She giggled. I had to lose my coat on the way out though. It's kinda cold in here. Do you have a wardrobe I could? I'm sure I can accommodate your fashion sense. Orochimaru demurred, reevaluating very rapidly. May I ask what happened to the escort I sent with you? Oh, those? Hinata shrugged. They're all dead or captured. Orochimaru blinked in surprise. All? All. She confirmed. They got in the way of my teammates. The twins and the archer didn't make it out of the village. I don't even know what happened to the other two. Kimimaro fought Sasuke. I'm reasonably confident of his destruction. She replied easily. I was forced to stop Naruto in his Kyuubi form myself. You really ought to hire better subordinates. Kabuto shuffled behind them, feeling his Rasengan wound. You have an awfully high opinion of your old teammates. Orochimaru probed, raising an eyebrow. Bright rays of competence and power, much different from the cesspool of a village surrounding them. She described, and there was the venom he'd expected. I will not have them insulted. But of course, I understand. He smiled, standing. I would be quite put out by insults against my own ex-teammates, foolish as they are. So, Hyuga Hinata. Why are you here? My cousin, Hyuga Neji, has cast off the caged bird seal and slaughtered the rest of my clan. She vocalized. I desire the power to kill him. I would like you to help me achieve that power, and I am willing to offer my services for the duration of my training. She not so subtlety at the direction she came from. From the looks of things, you could certainly use some more competent fighters. Orochimaru clapped his hands. A silver tongue, just like your cousin. I hope you and I get along better than he and I did. What happened? We tried to kill each other. Ah, I see. Orochimaru put a hand to his chest. So let's hope the same doesn't happen here. It would be a massive waste of potential. Miss Hinata, I accept your proposal. Thank you. The smile was back. You won't regret this. I hope we can all be friends. I hope so too. I'm so getting that body. Now, as a bit of an introductory tidbit, I have something you might want to know about your cousin. I'm sure it will be some relief that when Neji killed your clan, he did not manage to do so with nothing but an abundance of skill and genius. Oh. Oh yes. He sat back down, looked at her, and smiled. Let me tell you a story about a little something that roughly translates from old sage scripts as the perfect white eye. The Gokei Byakugan. The fifth Hokage, Senju Tsunade, sat at her desk in the Hokage Tower. The endless stack of paperwork in front of her was temporarily forgotten as she leaned back in her chair with a glass of sake in her hand. Her guard had been dismissed. As far as anyone could tell, she was alone in the room. You've got a lot of nerve, she said, softly. Sorry, said the voice. Are you? No. Yeah, figures. Tsunade took a sip. There were a few of these missions during the war. They're the stupid kind that go horribly wrong and get people killed. You should have at the very least come to me first. Would you have cleared it? No. Yeah, figures. Oh sure, feel free to sass me now you're miles away. The Hokage sighed. Hinata, why did I get a feeling this would happen? After a moment, the Hyuuga girl, or her clone, to be more precise, dropped out of the shadows and walked in front of the desk. Well, I understand I don't exactly give off vibes of stability. Or sanity. HN. She met Tsunade's eyes. I'm doing this whether you like it or not. All you can decide is what the hidden leaf gains from it. Brat. The Hokage shook her head. This isn't the sort of decision I can justify to the council, because it's completely insane. Fortunately, I don't have to. Black ops like this happen all the time. How do you plan to communicate? Hinata pointed to herself. I can receive memories from the original and send them through strategic popping. This clone string will last a few weeks, probably, and I'll try and send off more in the future. And since you have me for a while, you can instruct me about the usual dead drops at all of the other infiltrators use. You are aware that if you're caught, you'll have no backup, no extraction. I am. Have you told your teammates about this? Hinata opened her mouth. Closed it. I see. Naruto knows I plan to come back, and he'll tell Sasuke. But not about this. What do you think they'd do? Fair point. Tsunade allowed. But a word of more personal advice secrets can ruin teams. Along with war, murder, experimenting on children, and cursed mementos. Did you try to give your teammates a family necklace by any chance? I gave Naruto my headband. Oh, Kami. Tsunade shook her head and chuckled. Never thought I'd hear myself say this, but Orochimaru, you'd better be nice to this girl. Are you reminiscing? No. Tsunade straightened. All right then, let's make this as official as illegal ops can be. Oh screw it, field promotion. Jonin Hinata, you are hereby undertaking the S-rank mission to infiltrate Orochimaru's cadre and discover and report information on both his operations and those of the Akatsuki. Hinata kneeled. Of course, Lady Hokage. She turned to leave. Roki likes animals, and he feels bad when he kills them. Tsunade called over her shoulder. Learn the names of his snakes and laugh at his bad jokes. Yes, ma'am. Hinata chuckled, before vanishing. 2 days before that is your plan? Forsooth looked at Hinata, aghast. That's your genius plan to become more powerful without betraying your team? Defect to a terrorist and then come back afterwards? Hinata picked idly at the grass of the planetoid beneath her. Well, obviously I'm going to kill Orochimaru afterwards. This is all assuming that he does want to recruit me, which is what I suspect from the curse mark's presence. If all goes well, I get more powerful, murder 2 dangerous missing nin, including my cousin, and get back to Konoha within a few years. Or die trying. Forsooth snapped at her. My lady, I cannot possibly object in stronger terms to this idea. Leaving yourself so completely enough, forsooth. Athena stood on a lower planetoid, interrupted her subordinate. Hinata raises some valid points. Raises forsooth froze, turning his head between them. You're considering this. Lady Athena, surely you realize this is madness. Remember your place. The older owl chastised him. We cannot command those who we make contracts with. Merely offer advice, and if necessary, withhold support. Then our advice should be Hinata is right about many points. Athena ignored him, turning to the human present. You may not be able to overcome Neji from Konoha. May I remind you that you do not need to? I truly believe you could learn to be happy without hunting him. Perhaps. Hinata admitted. But I want my justice. And you want your answers. I do. Athena turned her head. Icarus' form was visible in the far distance. Very well. You have the owl's support in this endeavor. My lady enough, forsooth. My word is final. Hinata bowed and turned to go. Your teammates. Athena said, stopping her. They may not forgive you for this. Hinata smiled. They would be right not to. But somehow I think they might. Present day you're leaving. Yeah. Right now. Sasuke looked at Naruto, focusing on the duffel bag over his shoulder and the archway behind him. Well, at least you're not off to go live with a sannin of questionable sanity. Oh, wait. Hey, have I ever given you any reason to doubt me? Jiraiya walked up behind Naruto, putting his hand on his chest as though offended. The audacity. You got back yesterday. Sasuke ignored the old man. If it were anyone else, I'd be questioning whether they could still walk after that beating. Yeah, but it's me? Naruto spread his arms. When Sasuke looked unimpressed, he sighed and dropped them. Look, I know, okay? But Jiraiya says he has stuff to teach me. And I can't let Hinata pull ahead of me while she's off with Orochimaru. No, I get you. Sasuke sighed. Itachi says he plans to take me on more missions with him out as a duo for months at a time, plus there's some Uchiha stuff we need to talk about together. It's crazy, ninja stuff with Itachi has been my dream for years, and now all I care about is how strong it's going to make me for when we all get back together. They both heard Jiraiya chuckling from beside them and turned to give him questioning looks. Nothing. The sannin waved. Nostalgia is all. How's the trap? Pretty sure that's a slur now. Naruto frowned. Really? Why? Is he an actual? No, he still identifies as a guy, it's just Naruto shook his head, whatever. I think Haku's moved in with Tsunade? Getting some Hokage tutoring, go him. So I'm the only one who doesn't get a sannin? Great. Sasuke rolled his eyes. You saying your brother isn't better? Don't put words in my mouth. All right, lovebirds, have your moment, then let's get on the way. Jiraiya called, shaking his head in amusement before turning to adjust his own pack. Naruto and Sasuke paused to look at each other, before walking forwards to wrap each other in a hug. Don't die. Sasuke reminded him. You too. Naruto replied. It's you neither. Grammar is important. Sasuke, take one look at me and ask me if I went to actual school. Fair enough. Sasuke didn't let go. Naruto wriggled, then snorted. What, afraid I'll leave without giving you a goodbye kiss? I'd rather kiss a bijou. I can arrange that. Sasuke shoved him off and laughed. Go, asshole. You better be stronger by the time you get back. Naruto started backing up and waving. You too, Sasuke. That's childish. And homophobic. You have not gone through any character development, don't pull that. I've gone through hella character development. You're the one who. It was another few minutes of insults before Jiraiya was able to pull Naruto by the scruff of his neck through Konoha's main entrance, at which point the two laughing best friends finally parted ways. One back into the familiar, one into the unknown. Both with light hearts, a goal in mind, and most importantly of all a whole lot of ass to kick. In a dark cave, there stood 10 figures with forms that flashed with starlight. So, to recap, Orochimaru continues to do whatever the hell he wants. Pain confirmed. It seems so. Neji reported. Konoha is in absolute chaos right now, and all because he, well, sort of felt like it. Guess he just wanted to test his power? That's a terrible reason for a massacre. Conan frowned. Who would believe anyone would kill so many people for such a silly reason? I know, right? Neji said, very loudly. Everyone stopped and looked at him. He coughed. Sorry, just had a point proven. But yet Tsunade is the Hokage now, the Nine Tails has vanished with Jiraiya and my cousin has left to join the snake guy. What's with him and orphan children? Kisame shook his head. So, what's the plan? Deidara asked, impatiently. We not gonna go after the Jinchuriki? I counsel patience. Neji advised. Suna and Konoha are kicked hornets' nests at the moment, the Ichibi's well protected, the Kyuubi's gone, Killer Bee is still Killer Bee and we haven't got a clue about 2 through 7. We should wait and watch. Agreed. Agreed Sasori. If we go off half-cocked, we could wind up stuck and exposed. We need to gather reconnaissance. Kakuzu looked at him suspiciously. Are you saying we need a 4-year time skip? We need a 4-year time skip. There was a chorus of groans. Haiden shrugged. 8. Doesn't matter to me, I'm immortal. Toby continued to nod his head, in what could be considered agreement, but what was actually just him listening to music. Very well. Pain decided, after looking at all the members. It's decided. We will wait. We will watch. And when the time comes the world shall know pain. Your catchphrase is stupid. Fuck off Toby, your mask is stupid. You take that back. Training montage number 6. Brand new high-risk superpowers. In the distance, the sun rose over some mountain or another, reflecting off a nearby lake. Fresh dew was on the ground, wind whistled through some trees, a river ran through the terrain. An artist could stare at a view like this for hours, mesmerized by the beauty of nature. This is boring as shit, remarked Uzumaki Naruto. Oh, I agree. Jiraiya of the Sannin responded, walking up behind him. But that makes it perfect. The two were saddled up with camping gear, or at least Jiraiya was. Naruto had dumped all his on-shadow clones not 2 hours after leaving Konoha and didn't seem to have changed policy anytime in the following 2 weeks. Perfect? Perfect how? Perfect because, other than us, there is not another human being in the surrounding 400 miles. Jiraiya explained. Which means you're probably not going to accidentally kill anyone. Jiraiya dumped his gear onto one of the clones, which it grumbled at but allowed. Naruto, we are on a training trip. A 3 to 4 year time skip ridden training trip. Which means we have 2 main objectives. Number 1, get your base form strong enough that the Akatsuki don't all stomp you immediately. Number 2, he fished a coin out of his pocket. Heads is sage mode, tails is tailed beast. He flipped the coin. It came up tails. All right. Number 2 is teaching you how to use your bijou. You rigged that coin toss, didn't you? Naruto deadpanned. Then he caught up with what had been said. Wait, use my bijou? Are you insane? You're lucky. Jiraiya explained. Because your seal is so damn good, you've had very limited contact with the Nine Tails except in emergencies. But most of the other Jinchuriki have had to find a compromise of some kind with their tenants. The Ichibi protected Gaara and gave him power, in exchange for Gaara brutally murdering people to entertain it. Naruto gaped. Wait, Gaara did what he seems better now, it's cool. Jiraiya dismissed. A better example is B. Like the stripy insect? Like the letter. He's the Eight Tails Jinchuriki, the second most powerful, and he lives in Lightning Country. B and his bijou have a frankly astounding level of cooperation, presumably because the Hachibi is known to be the most passive of the bijou. Except maybe the Sanbai, who by all accounts is a massive pussy. Not to be confused with the Nibi, who is literally a massive pussy. You've lost me. Naruto confessed. The Nine Tails is a threat. Jiraiya summarized. It's a murderer. From all records, it's the most vicious and confrontational of all the nine. But it's also the strongest. And if you can get through to it, it might be your biggest combat asset. You want me to talk to it? And ask it to help me fight? Naruto shook his head rapidly. Nah. Remember that time it almost made me kill people? Or that other time it also made me kill people? Remember that time it helped you summon two of the strongest toads so you could fight Gaara? Jiraiya retorted. It tried to kill Gaara. And you stopped it. I'm not sure if it's the seal or pure willpower, but you've got more control over it than any Nine Tails Jinchuriki I've ever heard of. Even your mother. So you want me to, what, make a deal with it? Naruto wrinkled his nose. I want you to open communication. Jiraiya pacified. It's already proven it's willing to help you if you're going to die, so it may be willing to provide power a little more reliably. And if it won't, well, there's nobody who'll die in a crazy bijou rampage except me. Reassuring. Now you're starting to sound like Sasuke. You. Naruto shuddered. Fine then. I'm sure there's no way this can go wrong. In the distance, the sun rose over a nearby mountain, dappling through the gaps between the leaves. It was long miles from Konoha, and Itachi had set 10 shadow clones on watch around the surrounding 10 kilometers. Whatever this is, it had better be good. Sasuke said, coming to a stop in the clearing his brother indicated. It's good. Itachi replied. Or, well, it's not good, but it merits the effort. He walked up to a tree. With a blur, there was only half a tree left. I need to teach you about the ultimate weapon in an Uchiha's arsenal. The strongest and the costliest, in more ways than one. He sat down on the stump, looking at his younger brother. All traces of the playful jokester were gone. Itachi's eyes were dark and hard. If I may. Before you went to fight Kimimaro, you saw something, didn't you? Something that hurt? Sasuke nodded, slowly. Kidomaru, the spider guy? He said that the mind-awakening pills worked by killing the one who took them, and 9 times out of 10 they don't come back. I watched Hinata take one and collapse. I thought so. Itachi held out his hands and gave one resounding clap. I'd like to congratulate you on exploiting the geniest loophole in dojutsu history. Sasuke blinked. The what? The Uchiha's eye is an eye of pain. Itachi extrapolated. The Sharingan can be developed through practice, but it grows fastest and strongest through suffering, the kind of suffering that would make you cry. Literally, we believe. But what you have, and what I have, is something that extols an even heavier price. His eyes swirled, and again took on that strange pattern. The kaleidoscope copy will I, the Mangekyo Sharingan. In the distance, the sun was probably rising over something or other, but Hinata couldn't tell because she was underground. The what Byakugan? She asked Orochimaru. I imagine this is going to require a bit of exposition. The snake Sannin leaned backwards. What do you know about the Sage of Six Paths? Incredibly powerful ninja legend. Hinata recalled. Created the 9 Bijou, progenitor of ninjutsu, probably doesn't exist. Ah, but he probably does. Orochimaru grinned. And the brother he supposedly has is also probably real. Have you ever heard of the diverging bloodlines theory? No. Didn't think so, I came up with it. The theory goes that all bloodline limits of all kinds are caused by the diluted and varied genetics of the sage and his brother. Distant familial relations, going back hundreds or thousands of years. The strongest or purest bloodline descended from the sage is the Uchihas, and perhaps the Senjus. And the strongest descendants of the sage's brother are the Hyuuga. In fact, I think you and poor Kimimaro may have a common ancestor if you look back far enough. Is there any evidence? Hinata asked, dubiously. Some. Orochimaru replied. But I also have a theory that most of the sage's descendants live on the moon, so take what I say with a grain of salt. The point is that the Sharingan and Byakugan are linked more closely than you might imagine. Both ocular bloodlines, both with power sets designed specifically to counter each other, and both with the ability to evolve. Improve. This is no theory, your much beloved cousin also has access to it. He nearly killed me with it, in fact, and while he was very reticent about it during our joint time at the Akatsuki, I have gleaned some information from him. It's that powerful? Exceedingly so. And I can unlock it? Orochimaru grinned. I certainly hope so, my dear. Hinata nodded. Tell me everything you know. They chose a certain valley as the location to make first contact. Naruto attempted to make a traditional meditation pose, but eventually got uncomfortable, gave up, and wound up slouched against a boulder. Jiraiya had moved out of sight to give him space to think, though Naruto had a sneaking suspicion it was more like retreating to minimum safe distance. Sighing, he closed his eyes. He had made out to Jiraiya as one of his excuses that he had no idea how to contact the Nine Tails, but in reality he knew damn well how to access the chakra. It was like a coiled red ball of energy right in his gut, behind the seal that Jiraiya had shown him. Sometimes it was quiet, sometimes it broiled like it was trying to burst out of him, but it was always there, just at the edge of his attention. And it terrified him. Every time he let it out, it was like opening floodgates that were incredibly difficult to close up again. He had channeled its power as intended once, when he had summoned Gamahiro and Gamakin, and even then it had hardly even made a dent in the amount available to him. It had felt like he could have summoned the whole of Mount Mayaboku if he'd wanted to. And now Jiraiya wanted him to make friends with the thing. Great. Flinching a little, he reached out with his chakra for the ball of power and gave it a little nudge. There was a flash, and his trousers were wet. Erg. He jumped up, shuddering on reflex, before realizing he was not outside in the glade anymore. A steady trickle of water ran in an aqueduct along the floor, which he quickly hopped out of, but everything else was made out of stone brick. It was lit yellow, dimly, with no real visible light source, and in front of him it stretched out for an indeterminate distance. It looked like a sewer. It smelled like a sewer. This place is nasty, he remarked, wrinkling his nose up at it. That was when he heard a dark, ominous chuckling from behind him. You agree? Strange. It's your mind, after all. Naruto gulped and turned around. Thick red columns bisected the tunnel in that direction. Far enough apart that he could fit between them with no issue, with a sticky note that had Locke scribbled on it pasted onto the central pillar. Something big stirred behind the bars. Naruto slowly edged forwards. Look, if someone had put me in charge of interior design, this place would look way cooler. I'm talking lava, cliffs, floating waterfalls, ramen shops. You are in charge of interior design. The voice replied, boredly. You just haven't bothered. A sewer in your mindscape is a big indicator of mental neglect. Yeah, well, if anyone had. Naruto paused. Hey! You're insulting me. It started laughing again. There was a loud booming noise, and two large, red, furred claws gripped two of the bars. Well, glad to see the standards for my Jinchuriki have dropped over time. Insulted, but glad. Two red eyes appeared as its face came into view. After all, that should make it easier to take over and kill you. QB. Naruto responded, as if there was any doubt. Kit. Grinned the nine-tails fox. So good to finally meet you. Well, you're kinda bland. You what? Naruto squinted up at his face. I mean, like, you're literally just a fox with 9 tails. That's it. Shikaku was way cooler. What? No way. Shikaku is a punk bitch. Cubit snarled. Yeah, but he's got those cool blue tattoos everywhere and he's, like, made of sand, which is cool. Giant foxes are way cooler than sand tanuki. Well, you're red, which is cool, and I guess you've got those black markings on your face, but that's, like, it? Jiraiya says the 2 tails is made of blue fire, and that's awesome, but what have you got? Fur. Matatabi isn't even hot. Ooh, steamy interbiju attractions, Naruto hopped closer. Come on then, who's the prettiest tailed beast? Gimme a top 9. I'm the prettiest, the fox froze. Looked down at him. You're mocking me, aren't you? And you've just shown me that you are not, in fact, a soulless, remorseless killing machine. Naruto beamed. That should make this way easier. Kyuubi glared down at him. Yeah, we're done here. There was a jolt, and Naruto found himself back in the clearing again. He grinned. Hey, Uncle Pervert. You will not believe what just happened. So it does have a name. Sasuke continued to stare into Itachi's eyes. What do you mean heavier price? It's part of why I didn't want you to go to any of the other clan members with this. His older brother explained. In order to evolve the Sharingan into the Mangekyo, you must witness someone you care about die, and believe yourself responsible. For me, that was Uchiha Shursui. For you, it seems, that was Hyuga Hinata. That's awful. Sasuke shuddered. But why shouldn't I take it to the rest of the clan? Surely they wouldn't hate it that much that I cared about Hinata? Because we are both anomalies in the system. Itachi responded. We both developed our eyes by accident. The clan believes that attaining the Mangekyo is a deliberate act, and there is only one way to bring it about deliberately. They think you have to kill someone you love? Sasuke was horrified. That's so. They think you killed Shursui. Itachi nodded. All right, I see why it should be a secret. Wait, do any of the others, if there are any Uchiha alive with the Mangekyo, I don't know about them. Itachi answered. Before the wars, the murdering of brothers, sisters, and spouses was painfully common, apparently. But those outsiders in the know hunted them down specifically, knowing their power. Nowadays the knowledge of the Mangekyo is hidden, and the practice is forbidden. So what does it do? Sasuke couldn't help but ask. For it to require that much, it's got to be something broken. Itachi agreed. Busted. God tier. Op. If it gets out that you have this, you're going to be somewhere on the front page of the bingo book. Allow me to demonstrate. He kicked himself up and turned around to face the stump. Amaterasu. With very little pomp or ceremony, the stump set on fire. Black flames covered the entire thing, quickly consuming it and leaving nothing but ash. Is this what you did to Kimimaro? Itachi checked. Sasuke nodded, mutely. This is Amaterasu. The pinnacle of fire release. It allows you to immediately set fire to anything in your focal point, no charge-up time, no travel time. The black fire will catch and burn almost anything, and will keep burning on the anything's remains for a full week unless you dispel it. You can theoretically miss if you can't keep track of the anything you're targeting, but, well, I have the Sharingan, which basically lets me see in slow motion. Sasuke finished. Kami above that's broken. You burned your chair. There was a flicker, and the stump was back to normal, Itachi sitting back down. It took Sasuke another second to catch it. That was a genjutsu? I will not use my powers so trivially, for reasons I'll explain later. One of my eyes holds Amaterasu, but my second holds Tsukiyomi. It is a genjutsu that requires actual eye contact, and it allows me to cause any illusion of any complexity for 2 seconds. I can make those 2 seconds be perceived for up to 72 hours by the victim. There is no way to escape it once it has been cast, that I know of, though it's possible someone else with the Mangekyo could resist it. I don't believe I need to demonstrate that one. Do I have it? Sasuke asked, trying not to drool. Perhaps. Itachi looked down. I don't have all the answers. Mangekyo powers are similar between close family members, but not identical. You may have something different, but don't worry, all the other abilities I know of are similarly ridiculous. Of course, once you have unlocked the power in each of your eyes, you get the Susanoo. The Weo. Oh. The fact that this was probably an illusion was the only thing that stopped Sasuke running away. Itachi stood wreathed in a gigantic, glowing, orange skeleton. He who has the ability to help by all means. Itachi translated. This is one of the few things that can block Amaterasu, though since it's transparent Tsukiyomi can hit you through it. It's a nigh impenetrable armor with multiple stages of evolution and increasing strength as you practice with it. And yes, you can cast other jutsu from inside of it. Put it away, please. Sasuke said, looking up at the skeleton's head. It seemed to be glaring at him. Then there was a blur, and it vanished. If I may. Sasuke started, unsure how to phrase it. How come the Uchiha haven't already, taken over the entire world? The Mangekyo cannot be used without consequence. Itachi explained. And this is the part you must know before taking these abilities out into combat. Your use of them is limited. Every time you cast a Mangekyo technique, your eyes are permanently damaged. Each use will bring you closer and closer to blindness, and once blind, all use of the Sharingan will be lost to you. It's worse if you use them multiple times in succession, even worse if you combine different powers together. Also, they're all incredibly chakra intensive and hurt like a bitch. How many uses do I have? Sasuke asked, worried. My uses of each technique are in the high single digits. Itachi replied, after some thought. I have already noticed significant deterioration. Fuck. Sasuke summarized. Fuck. Itachi agreed. Some levity returned to the clearing, and Sasuke allowed himself to relax. So what now? Now I train you. Itachi hopped back off the stump. We try to unlock whatever's in your other eye. We practice Amaterasu until you're certain you can bring it out reliably. We try and get you access to the Susanoo, and then you stop using them all until you're genuinely about to die. He paused, then walked up and put a hand on Sasuke's shoulder. This ability will allow you to contend with some of the most dangerous individuals in the ninja world. But if you start punching above your weight just because you have a panic button, you're going to get yourself killed. Please, try not to do anything stupid. Sasuke looked up at him and nodded, solemnly. I won't. Great. Now say that without your fingers crossed. Ugh, fine. I'll try. First. Orochimaru said. From my contacts in Konoha. I know that through killing a loved one, the Sharingan can be evolved into the Mangekyo Sharingan. This gives it greater ocular strength, 2 unique abilities that vary from person to person, and a powerful new form, the use of which gradually harms the user. It is possessed by my contact, one other I don't think I'll share, and Uchiha Itachi. Second. From my time knowing Neji. He possesses an evolved form of the Byakugan he calls the Gokiai. Third. From you. He smiled at Hinata. I don't suppose you know anything about his arsenal that I don't? She nodded, slowly. Neji came into Konoha looking for Naruto a month or so ago, and got into a fight with Itachi. He used something called the Kokosora to put Itachi in a coma. He did something with white armor that let him resist one of Itachi's attacks, and he had something called the Hiragikoma that let him access the Hyuga vaults and remove Sasuke's curse mark. He removed my Orochimaru stopped and breathed in. Well, that makes sense. He claimed he had an easy method of separating a Jinchuriki from their bijou. We may be talking about the same power. So, 2 powers and a stronger form. Hinata understood. I see the links. Do you think I'll also have to kill a loved one? Because I'm quite low on options for that. Possibly, but I doubt it. Decided Orochimaru. The Byakugan is like the Yin to the Sharingan. If anything, your activation method is probably the opposite. So to spare an enemy? What? I don't know. But for that, you have me. Orochimaru told her. I'm a scientist, dear. If there are chemical reasons behind the change, and you're willing to provide a few harmless samples, then I should be able to find it. From there will we get our answers. And hopefully, you can get the power yourself. Training and a dojutsu improvement? Hinata smiled. And all you want out of it is my service? Oh, I think I'll be quite satisfied. The snake replied, unsubtlety. Now then. I imagine you need some sleep? I'll have Kabuto pick you a room. Though I imagine we'll have to move soon, given several of my soldiers that know about this base have been captured. Training montage number 7: The importance of cooperation. Orochimaru sipped his tea, reading the morning paper. Kabuto was buttering some toast across from him. From down the hall somewhere, there was a loud shriek that permeated the entire hideout. A few minutes later, a sopping wet and livid Hinata, covered entirely insufficiently by a towel, stormed in and slammed a pulverized hidden swamp boa down on the table. If I find, she hissed, any more snakes in my shower, then they will find themselves eaten by owls. She grabbed Kabuto's toast out of his hands, jammed it in her mouth, and stalked off. Kabuto grabbed another slice of bread. She'll get used to it, he remarked. You did. Orochimaru agreed, taking another sip. Water dripped slowly from the roof of the cave, collecting in a small pool on the floor. Down here, dozens of meters from the surface, was one of few places in Suna where natural water even appeared, and as it was a room appropriated for the Kazekage's use, it was the only place it was allowed to collect in such a useless manner. 2 boys sat by that pool, the air around them filled with sand particulates and hair-thin chakra strands. Is it working? Gaara asked, carefully scrutinizing the mechanism between them. Well, I can't see anything, so not yet. Kankuro replied. Are you sure you can't simply use the third eye and make it float into your eye socket? Gaara asked. Not unless I want to erode a hole in my skull. Kankuro explained. He had forsaken the tanuki suit he usually wore and was sat in casual civilian clothes. After the doctors had told him there was simply nothing they could do, he decided to keep the bandage across his eyes. Aesthetic, he'd told them. Let's try again. Gaara nodded. He carefully manipulated a small volume of sand from his gourd and poured it into the top of the simple puppet Kankuro had brought down for the exercise. It formed a perfect sphere. Kankuro reached out a set of chakra threads to animate the puppet, and more specifically the sand in its head. With one free hand, he began making seals. After a few seconds, the strands tightened, and the sphere of sand changed color to resemble an eye. Kankuro gasped. Progress? Gaara asked. It works. The puppeteer grinned. Under his instruction, the puppet looked around between them. Holy shit, I can see. Oh, damn, I look like crap. I didn't want to bring it up. Gaara admitted. It's the tiredness that does it. Do your nightmares continue? Kankuro grimaced, images of a pale boy darting forwards and slashing intruding again into his thoughts. Yup. Hopefully now I have some new visual input they'll start to at least vary. How about you? Now that I am able to sleep, my dreams are pleasant enough. Gaara replied. Kankuro knew that ever since his encounter with, and thorough beating from, the Nine Tails, Shikaku had suddenly been more willing to cooperate with its owner. "I'm sorry that I can't do more." Gar spoke up, out of the blue, as Kankuro continued to take in his surroundings with the puppet. "It's fine," he replied. "You've done lots. Teaching me your floaty eye jutsu at all was more than I'd hoped. I'm trying to be better." The Jinchuriki spoke up. I'm trying to be kind." "You're doing amazing," bro, Kankuro reassured. He turned around the puppet and grinned. "You do look stupid in that hat though." Gar tugged on his ceremonial garb with some distaste. "It is not very practical, no. But I am still the youngest Kage in Suna's history, so it's important to maintain some traditions." "Heh." Kankuro chuckled. Then he turned his head down to the puppet. "I wonder if I can do this with something bigger." It was another few days before Naruto was able to get back in his mindscape. He tried to return immediately, but at first the Kyuubi had very clearly not wanted to talk. Eventually, though, the resistance lessened, and he was able to appear back in the dank room. "Hey Kyuubi!" he shouted, to the bars. "You still there? You again?" The fox appeared behind the bars and looked down at him. "Have you come to annoy me some more?" "No, actually." Naruto shifted. "I got kinda caught up in the moment, yesterday, but there was a reason I wanted to talk." "Spill." "I want to be able to access your chakra in battle." The Nine Tails looked at him for a moment. "No." There was a jolt, and Naruto was back in the clearing. "Asshole." Orochimaru was very surprised when he walked down one morning to find Hinata holding out a bright green box with a pink ribbon tied on the top. "What?" he uttered. "Happy birthday," she said, with a smile. "You what?" Actually, now he thought about it, it was that time of year. "Huh? Who told you my birthday?" he asked, aghast. "I caught Lady Tsunade reminiscing about it one time before I left the village," Hinata admitted. "She also mentioned something you might like." Orochimaru laughed, derisively, even as he tore the box from her and began ripping the wrapping paper open. "That sentimental old goat. I bet she doesn't even remember what oh my lord she does." He yanked the contents free of their container. "Critters, Creeps and Crawly Things, the official annual?" Kabuto read, looking from across the room. Then, tilting his head, volumes 20 through 30? "I got that book every year since it came out." Orochimaru stroked the cover, lovingly. "That is a children's book." Kabuto deadpanned. "I mean if you don't like it." Hinata reached out. "No." Orochimaru clutched them to his chest. "Awesome." Hinata clapped. "I'll get you the next decade's worth next year. I figured there would be a bit of a backlog to work through since that one time you betrayed everything you loved." "Great for some." Kabuto grouched. "We don't all have birthdays." "You don't." Hinata rounded on him. "All right, that's it. You're having a birthday. Is there any date you have a particular fondness for?" It's a surprise then." "Great. Sometime this year, Kabuto, you will have a birthday." Kabuto shook his head in silent surrender. "Excellent. Now then." Hinata spun on Orochimaru. "Where were we on that 2000 tortures jutsu?" The next time Naruto was able to get into the mindscape, he stalked right up to the cage doors. "Hey, what the hell was that for?" One large eye opened. "Oh, you're back? Presumably got some other reason for trying to see me this time?" "No, I'm still on about the power thing. Don't kick me out again. We're not done." "I think we're pretty done." Naruto pointed an accusatory finger. "You gave me power to fight Gaara, didn't you?" "All right, addendum." Kyuubi held up a claw. "You can have as much power as you want when it comes to beating up the other Bijuu, but that's it." "Wait, really?" Naruto made a confused look. "Why?" "Because I'm better than them." The Nine Tails explained. And I want them and everyone else to know that I'm better than them. I mean, surely you're only like a tiny fraction better than the Eight Tails, though. Naruto pointed out. Nope. Exponential. Expa who now? The fox sighed. Okay, so there used to be the 10 tails, and then that got split into the 9-tailed beasts. But if you add up 1 through 9, you don't get 10. Yeah, that's because the 10 tails wasn't split evenly. The fox explained. It had a fraction of its chakra split off, me, and then the same fraction was taken off what's left. Rinse and repeat until you just have a husk that you bury on the moon somewhere. I'm stronger than 8 by the same ratio that 8 is stronger than 7, and so on. Shikaku is nothing to me. I could beat up 1 through 4 without breaking a sweat. You're probably dropping some incredibly important history right now, but I really don't care. We're getting off track. Naruto dismissed. You also gave me chakra when we fought on the bridge. Why was that? You were about to die. Kyubi replied. And if you die, I die, and if I die, everything sucks for a decade or so while I reform. Oh, okay. Naruto blinked. Wait. If you'll give me chakra when I'm about to die, why won't you just give me chakra anyway? That way I'm less likely to die. Because. Kyubi huffed. All right. Tell you what. You lay all your cards on the table, and I'll do the same with mine. Sound fair? Sure. Naruto thought about it. Okay, so I want to get Hinata back, and I want to become Hokage, and I want to save the world, I think. And to do those things I need to get more powerful. Accessing the chakra of the giant monster capable of beating up an entire village sounds like a good way to do that, but I'm being kinda bogged down by, A, I don't want you to break out and kill everyone I've ever loved, and B, I'm kinda iffy on using the power of the monster that, well, broke out and destroyed a whole village and killed the 4th Hokage and presumably also my parents. I guess ideally we could be friends, and you could apologize and be redeemed and we'd work together? Wow. The Nine Tails shook its head. That is the most idealistic blathering I've heard since the damn senju that sealed me away the first time. Alright, cards on the table. I absolutely fucking hate you. And it's not your fault, really, it's more because I have been stuck in your idiotic useless child body for the last 13 years in this damn cell without even enough influence to talk to anyone. It inhaled. Naruto was left completely nonplussed. Now your father literally sacrificed his soul to death itself to seal me into you, which means he got to make the seal however he wants. If he'd wanted, I could have been stuck in here until you died and you'd have never noticed me. But, he wanted you protected. So he put a little loophole in the seal that meant that giving you my chakra would weaken it, and allow me to gradually give you more chakra. Eventually, I'd be able to speak to you, try and influence you, and hopefully break the seal altogether. It folded its paws in front of itself and rested its head on them. My main goal is to get out of you, plain and simple. If you're forced to desperately beg for help on death's door, it lets me flood you with power, and put more cracks in the seal than if I slowly feed it to you in a nice controlled manner. Also, I have no interest in cooperating with you. Because I hate you. So like I said, we're done here. There was a jolt, and Naruto was back in the clearing. The glade was silent, with the exception of the regular thunking of blade into wood, and the clanging of metal on metal. Its lone occupant had given himself a foot square within which he could move, and a foot square target he could aim for, and was trying to pepper every tree nearby with ricocheted kunai. He was about halfway done when he noticed someone approach, and lean against a nearby tree. If you stand there for much longer, I'm going to impale you. Uchiha Sasuke said, with a level voice. Not at that angle, you won't. Replied the newcomer. The trick is to use your upper arm more, lets you get a greater spin. Sasuke tried it, launching 2 kunai forwards, and was able to get a deflection so that one of them bounced almost 180 degrees backwards. Uchiha Fugaku caught it before it could pierce his skull. Not bad, son. I see Itachi has been teaching you well. Father. Sasuke turned to face him. It's good to see you? Likewise, even if you were being sarcastic. Fugaku replied, pushing himself off the tree and walking forwards. I came to congratulate you on your performance in the Kage discussions a few months ago. The discussions where I was diametrically opposed to you? Sasuke replied, confused. Those ones. Fugaku replied. You performed very well under pressure and showed great creativity and charisma, even if you were playing second fiddle somewhat to the Hyuuga. Sasuke wanted to object to his father's dismissal of his teammate, but didn't really have much of an argument. Officially, she had betrayed the village. You didn't seem too happy with me at the time. Make no mistake, I have great respect for the Lady Tsunade. Fugaku refuted. We were on the same side during the Third Ninja War. I do believe she saved my life, in fact. But a courtroom is a different kind of war, one in which arguments are soldiers. If I had allowed that you sometimes made good points, the clan would have felt like I'd betrayed them. The clan which wanted to take over Konoha. That isn't Fugaku's side. Make no mistake, son. My loyalty is to my clan, yes, but it is also to the village. I mean no harm to its people. You may not have experienced it, but you know what injustices we have undergone in this village. Injustices worthy of taking over the whole thing? While I personally Fugaku stopped and shook his head. No. I'm not here to argue politics with you. He twirled the kunai in his hands. I'm here on your mother's behalf. She wants you to come home for dinner tonight. Sasuke winced. I wasn't aware I was welcome. He hadn't been back into the Uchiha compound since his fight against Hinata, not counting the time he'd broken in with Itachi for some clothes and breakfast. Unwelcome? Why? Fugaku asked. His son coughed. This may sound strange, but I was under the impression you were upset I didn't kill my teammate. Upset you? Fugaku shook his head. I was upset you'd thrown the match, but if killing your teammate was the only alternative, I understand why you did so. Especially as that was proof enough you were stronger than her. If you had come to explain, Sasuke grimaced and looked away. Sorry, just Itachi thinks you're an asshole. What is it between you two? Fugaku looked down. Me and your brother disagree on a number of matters. I know he's been telling you things, but, well, he grimaced. I don't want to sound melodramatic with phrases like seducing you away from me, but I know you're spending a lot of time with him and I don't want it to sour your opinion of the clan, or the family. He reached forwards and held out the kunai. Will you come home tonight? Please? What's Mom making? Sasuke asked, suspiciously. Lasagna. All right, fine. Sasuke sighed and took the kunai. When do you want me? Dinner's on the table at 6. No. This one goes here, that one goes there. Karen put her fingers to the bridge of her nose to try and hold off a stress headache. I swear to Kami, you useless. I specifically put the chemicals in very strong glass vials, because I was worried you'd break them. But no, turns out I should have been more afraid about you putting them in the wrong. Am I interrupting something, dear? Karen froze. She schooled her expression carefully, and turned around with a smile. Orochimaru-sama. No sir, everything is fine. Just sorting out a few organizational difficulties. I remind you again that you are more than welcome to imprison the guards should they prove themselves not to your liking. Orochimaru replied, walking in. I understand you are missing a few prisoners? A few. She winced. 118. It's not my fault. Looking up, she spotted a girl with dark blue hair stood at her master's side. Ah yes, introductions. Orochimaru gestured. Karen, this is Hyuuga Hinata. She will be working with us from now on. Hinata, this is Karen. A recent acquisition of mine. She and her chakra suppression chains take charge of the prison here in the southern hideout. Chakra suppression chains? The Hyuuga girl walked forwards. Her eyes, white and wide, seemed to be scrutinizing every part of Karen at once. Do you perhaps have Uzumaki heritage? Karen blinked. Yes, actually. On my mother's side. She paused and took the time to analyze the girl's chakra. It was strange. Dark, yes, intense and strong, but there was a glimmer of light in it that seemed to be glowing brighter as time passed. Aha! Hinata mused. Then she turned back to Orochimaru. Can I keep her? What? If you want. Orochimaru shrugged. But only so long as it doesn't impact her usefulness. You have people missing. Hinata responded, stretching. I'll help Karen retrieve them. I can see some of the stragglers from here, actually. Excellent. Orochimaru beamed. Get it done. You have 6 hours. 3 hours, got it. Hinata grabbed Karen by the hand and walked off. Hold on. Karen pulled her hand free when they were clear of Orochimaru's sight. Why do you want to have me? Why are you helping? Who are you? I'm a girl motivated by a childhood crush and the need to kill someone. Hinata replied, smiling at her. I'm sorry if my language was a bit simple back then. I want you because one of my best friends was also an Uzumaki. Your chakras look similar, and I am terribly homesick. Oh. Karen responded, a little overwhelmed. Okay. That was very succinct. Thank you. Hinata replied. Now then. Let's go round up some probably innocent prisoners. The Chunin exams. The first real test of a prospective ninja's mettle. A life-threatening situation in which friends were pit against friends, where only the strongest, toughest, smartest could ever hope to survive, let alone succeed. Haku didn't know what all the fuss was about. Congratulations, Temari. He called across to her, after the official ceremony was over and the ninja and viewers were free to spill into the streets. Haku. The blonde looked over to her and smiled. Well done to you too. That was a fun final round. She walked over with a wink. Glad I got my revenge after our fight 6 months ago. Home field advantage. Haku made a mock pout, before both laughed. And speaking of that fight, where's Kankuro? I heard you said he was improving. He is. Temari reassured. He's got a new method that'll let him fight again, which is frankly insane, but he wanted to take more time to rebuild his repertoire before starting again. He's going to stomp the next exams, I'm certain, but for now he's still recuperating. Temari cast her eyes outwards. Also, speaking of our last fight, where's your boyfriend? Sai's Haku paused and looked around. Missing. Again. Great. I don't know, he's probably reporting to his Dark Master. He's still doing that? Temari rolled her eyes. I'm trying to pry him away, give him time. Haku eyed her. I'm surprised Gaara actually passed Sai, considering you know. Oh, my brothers are still planning to kill him. Temari said, breezily. I think it's a bonding exercise, they stay up late talking about it. But they're not gonna stop Sai being promoted, that wouldn't be fair. Ehe. Haku was saved from that very awkward conversation by another very awkward conversation, appearing in the form of a busty redhead coming in from behind them. Well well, if it isn't the celebrities of the day. I've been looking for you. Mizukage-sama? Haku addressed her, surprised. Call me May, please. The woman walked up with a wide smile that didn't show in her eyes. I'm surprised to see you're here. I don't think any of your genin made it to the finals? Haku trailed off, slightly regretting the trio of Miss Ninja he and Sai had taken out during round 2. Well, I figured that since I only recently acquired my position, it would be important to get my face out into the world. I don't quite agree with my predecessor's isolationist policies. Yeah, Yagura was a bit of an asshole. Haku agreed. I should know, I tried to assassinate him. Twice. Good attempts, both. May admitted. You don't have a problem with that? Haku checked, hesitantly. Well, I did it too. The Mizukage shrugged. The trick was catching him in his sleep, so he didn't have time to use his tailed beast form. Turns out the whole time there was actually a genjutsu on him, so it wasn't really his fault, which was a little awkward. Nobody spotted that? Temari asked. Well, we had a guy with a Byakugan he'd stolen one time, I think? But then Hyuuga Neji showed up and killed him, so that was that. Mei sighed. Nasty. But I'm not here to talk about me, let's talk about you. The woman clapped her hands together. People are calling this the year of the kunoichi, you know. Look at who passed, Miss Haruno, Miss Ino, Temari here, he's a dude. Temari interrupted. Sai, he's a dude. Haku interrupted. Wow, okay. Mei blinked. Well, they could have mentioned that, but I'm getting off topic. Haku dear, has it been mentioned to you how intriguing your position is? Not to my knowledge. Haku frowned. Odd, but understandable. I can imagine Leaf trying to keep some of these options from you. Mei squatted down to Haku's eye level, something he found really condescending. It's intriguing because you are a mist citizen, from a mist ninja clan, who currently wears the headband of a leaf chunin. She reached out and poked it. Haku scowled. Which means you are capable of applying for a senior position in both villages. Mei extrapolated, standing back up to her full height. I thought I was a missing nin. You were. I took the liberty of having that changed. It really shouldn't have applied at all, since you weren't officially a ninja, and it hardly matters since that old Gitsubuza is dead. Temari looked between them, feeling thoroughly left out. Haku's fists tightened. Thank you for that. Is that all you came to say? No. I came to offer you work. Mei smiled again. Mist would be more than happy to hire your services, and due to your legal dubiousness it wouldn't even be, well, legally dubious. Not to mention she leaned forwards, in a posture that quite prominently pushed her cleavage together. You'll find that there are plenty of perks for someone of your powers and lineage. Think it over, okay? With a wink, she walked off. Haku paused, looking across at Temari. Is it me, or was she a massive bitch? Yeah. Temari agreed. Why did you attack the village? The QB opened one eye. What? At first, I thought you were an actual monster. Some sort of mindless animal. Naruto continued. He'd spent a full month training with Jiraiya, thinking on what the Nine Tails had said, before trying to come back. But you're not. You're an asshole, sure, but you don't seem like you'd attack Konoha just for kicks. But you have, apparently. Twice. I want to know why. The Nine Tails regarded him for a long moment. Have you ever read 15 Reasons Why the Sharingan Can Go Fuck Itself by Senju Hashirama? This is assuming you can read. Naruto glared, but let it go. No, but Sasuke borrowed it from Itachi sometime after Christmas, and I've heard him complaining about it. My first Jinchuriki in Konoha read it once, we both had a whale of a time. The beast chuckled. Reason number 7, someone experienced with the Sharingan can apply Jinjutsu with all the subtlety of a bijou bomb and still get results. Even if you're prepared for it, they can make you stupid, or angry, or forget everything. They can make you obey. It glared at nothing in particular. They can make you wear their magic blue armor and try to kill their best friend. They can even make you lose your mind and try to destroy a village even though you were planning on running away to your cave in the mountains. Wait. Naruto held a hand up. Are you telling me that the worst massacre in recent history was an accident? No. Growled the Kyuubi. Not an accident. I'm telling you that right now there are plenty of people I want to kill. But back then? The destruction of Konoha was not my will. It was the will of a man with an orange mask and a Sharingan. There was a jolt, and Naruto was back in the clearing.
Thank you for your views, likes, subscriptions, and overall support of my ongoing efforts to bring great content to all of you. check out my Patreon for more mature fanfiction. The link is in the description and like everywhere on my channel.